Enjoy less stress and more peace of mind by building better boundaries. How can building borders and boundaries boost positive feelings? Is there any proof that setting and enforcing limits in your relationships leads to healthy emotions, less stress, and more peace of mind? Is there any hard data that proves setting boundaries improves your self-image and how others view you as well? Actually, there is. There's plenty of research that speaks to the benefits of setting boundaries. ScienceDaily.com shared a study conducted by the University of Illinois concerning the relationship between stress and boundary control. The study showed that subjects with better boundary control between their work and personal lives enjoyed much less stress than their boundary-free coworkers. They also felt a sense of personal control and self-pride that they were able to separate their personal and work lives. Dr. Jo Yarker is an occupational psychologist and researcher with Birkbeck University in London. She points to research that shows people who proactively state their boundaries are much better at managing their mental health. The Vanderbilt University Medical Center is home to notable boundaries expert Chad Buck, a clinical psychologist. He says setting and declaring boundaries leads to better self-awareness and makes you feel good about yourself. You enjoy less stress and more peace of mind, and you become a better friend, family member, and coworker. Setting healthy boundaries is all about clear communication. Have you ever wandered onto someone's property without knowing it? This can happen when borderlines and property limits aren't clearly defined. It's common to place some type of fence between two pieces of property. Nothing needs to be said about what that fence means. It's a clear way to communicate that there is a division of some kind between one side of the fence and the other. If that fence didn't exist, someone could accidentally or purposefully aggravate a property owner by trespassing. Boundaries in relationships need to be as clearly defined and outlined as a physical fence on a piece of property. Don't consider these types of relationship limits as a bad thing. They are not walls or barriers. They're just healthy separation of things that can impact your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. For you to be a better partner or friend, you need to respect the boundaries set by others. For your own mental health, less stress, and healthy relationships, you owe it to the people you care about to clearly define the important boundaries you have in your life. How to stop feeling guilty about setting boundaries. Establishing and enforcing boundaries in your life is a mental wellness practice. It's a form of self-care. There are certain things or people or activities which take you to a negative place. You don't need that in your life. Everyone is entitled to a stress-free existence with happiness and peace of mind. That's what setting healthy boundaries is all about. You use them to create your best life experience. They speak about your values and the things that are important to you. They're a way of putting your needs first, and that's okay. It's not your fault if other people overload their plates. If you have a friend that's constantly overburdened with responsibilities, you might want to help out every now and then. When that person repeatedly comes to you for help, you need to put your foot down. This person could be a friend or coworker. It might even be your spouse or fiancé. Whatever the case may be, this person is intentionally or unconsciously taking advantage of you, and that needs to stop. How can you have a healthy relationship with someone who constantly makes you resent them? You can't. You begin to feel resentment because your values and responsibilities get put on the back burner. Their needs are always first. If you don't set clear boundaries that stop this type of behavior, they can start expecting it of you. Before you know it, they will intentionally push personal responsibilities aside. They know you're going to be there to bail them out. Then, the one time that you say you can't help, they act as if they've lost their mind. All this can be avoided with clear communication. Talk about your boundaries when both of you are emotionally cool and collected. Tell them that you really want them in your life, but that certain things are going to have to change. If this person truly does value you, they'll understand. There's going to be a healing time that needs to take place. Behaviors don't always change overnight. They seldom do. So after clearly defining what boundary you're setting in place, forgive the offender if they overstep borders once in a while. When they do, reiterate your feelings and the boundary that they haven't respected. After a decent period of time, and if the person has respected your boundaries, show them you appreciate it. Take them to a nice meal or buy them a gift. You can also just say thank you. This is positive reinforcement that can make that person desire respecting your boundaries in the future. How to deal with people that overstep your boundaries. If you live your life to make other people happy, you're going to be miserable. That's because it's absolutely impossible to make everyone you encounter happy. You might have a good run and go a week or two generating nothing but smiles on the faces of the people you run into. But eventually, you're going to make someone angry. It's just going to happen. You'll do something or say something inappropriate or at the wrong time. There will no doubt be someone there when you make this mistake, as there always is, and they'll get upset. Much of the time, though, the problem is with the other person, not with something you did or said. There are people out there who are just looking for any excuse to be negative. You might have accidentally said or done something that set them off, but for certain people, they don't need an excuse. They'll tell you that you offended them in some way. They will keep badgering you in the hope that you will give in and agree with them just to quiet them down. Difficult people like this also love stepping all over your boundaries. When you let them know that they're acting in a way that's inappropriate according to your values, they only get louder. Instead of letting them cross any borders you've set, remember this. You can please some of the people all of the time. You can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. President Abraham Lincoln. Truer words were never spoken. Sometimes people are just looking for attention. If you don't get involved in their life, they'll raise a fuss. They'll find out something that bothers you, some boundary or border that you hold dear. Then they'll get to work stomping all over that border. When someone is being difficult and they refuse to obey any boundaries you've put up, don't react right away. That's what they want. Remove yourself from the situation. Calm down and take a few deep breaths. You might be emotionally on the verge of losing your mind, but don't let that happen. Do whatever you need to regain control of your emotions. Then, contact the individual if it's necessary. If you remove yourself from the proximity of a total stranger, you don't need to worry about the situation anymore. If it was a friend or loved one that was being difficult, then reach out. Be very direct and specific. Communicate that you value them as an important person in your life. Then, let them know what bothered you. Tell them this is an important boundary for you and that you're not backtracking or allowing the situation to be repeated in the future. The people who love and care about you will respect what you have to say. If they don't, perhaps that's an individual you don't need to be spending as much time with. Inspirational quotes on boundaries for better peace of mind and mental health. We all need boundaries in our lives. Without them, we have no sense of control. No control means stress, anxiety, and very little or no enjoyment and contentment. Do you have difficulty setting healthy boundaries in your life? A lot of people do. They feel that other people may be hurt by the limitations they set. These feelings are often taken advantage of. That means that for your best mental health and well-being, you need to be setting healthy boundaries. Sometimes, a few well-spoken words can motivate us to do what we need in our lives. Here are a few motivational quotes on setting healthy boundaries that can give you the courage to practice better self-care by letting others know where you draw the line. The only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who are benefiting from you having none. Unknown. No is a complete sentence. Annie Lamott. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Unknown. When you notice someone does something toxic the first time, don't wait for the second time before you address it or cut them off. Many survivors are used to the wait-and-see tactic, which only leaves them vulnerable to a second attack. As your boundaries get stronger, the wait time gets shorter. You never have to justify your intuition. Shahida Arabi. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Warren Buffett. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. Brené Brown. Whatever you are willing to put up with is exactly what you will get. Unknown. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. Rachel Wolkin. When someone oversteps your boundaries, they're letting you know what you want doesn't matter. Phil Good. If someone gets mad at you for creating a boundary, consider that a good sign that the boundary was necessary. Jenna Korf. When you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself. Paulo Coelho. Stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. Unknown. Walls keep everybody out. Boundaries teach them where the door is. Mark Groves. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious, and you get to decide how you use them. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and won't accept. Anna Taylor. Are you afraid your boundaries might hurt somebody's feelings? There are certain things that you're responsible for in your life. If you live with someone else, then those cohabitants will have their own responsibilities. This is true with a spouse, a roommate, and your parents. When people decide to live in the same home together, there have to be clear-cut expectations of what everyone is responsible for, or life can be difficult. Maybe you have a roommate. You aren't exactly a stickler for neatness, but your roommate very well may be the sloppiest person on the planet. You care about this person's feelings. You've talked about keeping your shared spaces clean and organized several times, but it doesn't seem to be working. You're a caring soul. You don't want to hurt that person's feelings. So rather than address the issue for the 100th time, you decide you'll simply clean up after your roommate. That scenario is a ticking time bomb that threatens to blow up the relationship. Boundaries are good. They let everyone know what is and isn't expected of them. Without borders and limits in our lives, chaos would reign. When you set limits and let others know what those limits are, you are practicing control over your life. You're talking about things that you value enough to enforce them. Sharing that knowledge with others tells those people you care about them. Open up to people that you want in your life. Let them know that your relationship is important enough for you to tell them places you don't want them to go. This is a type of emotional self-care that can improve how you look at yourself. You're proud that you respect yourself enough to set boundaries for others. You can also set boundaries for yourself. You don't have to have that second glass of wine after dinner. Maybe you only indulge in fast food once a week. Make a promise that you'll smoke one fewer cigarette every day until you slowly wean yourself off tobacco altogether. In every one of those situations, you need to have a talk with the person you're setting boundaries for. If it's yourself, communicate that this is a good thing. Don't be sorry if you get upset that you're not going to be able to eat fast food as often as you used to. In your self-talk, reiterate that this is something you owe yourself. So when you experience cravings and you start to justify eating an unhealthy meal, have this little talk with yourself again. Do the same with others. Let them know that your intent is not to hurt them. In actuality, you want your relationship with them to be healthier and stronger. That's why you're sharing your borders with them. On the rare occasion that someone says they're not going to respect some border of yours, have the strength to step away from the relationship. You can't let other people step on your values and beliefs. This is especially true for someone you want to have a healthy relationship with.